about bridge design in Panama.
Good morning. My name is Joseph Schmitt.
I'm Romenesko.
My name is Zeng.
Jake Mathieu.
I'm Sophia Lopez.
And we represent Lucy and Associates, and this morning we're going to talk about the Santa Lucia River crossing. So to just give a little outline of our presentation this morning, we're going to give a brief introduction to our project, talk about the experience that our team experienced while in the community in Panama, give a little background on community, or give a background on the community, then go into some design requirements of our suspension bridge, talk about the data we collected while in the country, and then we're going to talk about the design a little bit of what we've been doing back when we got here this fall, some future plans, wrapped up in the summary, and end with some questions.
So you guys have heard already about the iDesign trip. It's a 2-week trip that you go down and get some hands-on experience on data collection and engineering, and then you come back and you have your senior design in the fall. So this is just an outline of our timeline of our trip. We got to Panama City, and we traveled to the City of Knowledge, which was like a dormitory-style place where we stayed. It had air conditioning. It was great. And after 2 days there, we got in a bus, and we drove about 5 hours west to our community. From there, we got on a taxi and drove up to the trailhead, and then they dropped us off and sent us into the jungle, and we hiked about 2 hours in. We were there for 7 days and collected our data, and we got to experience all the culture and live with the community, and they made us food and everything. And then we went out and collected all of our data for survey data for our bridge. After that, we headed back to the City of Knowledge, and we compiled all our data and had a presentation and started our preliminary design. And then we headed back to the U.S., and now we're in fall semester. So the star, I guess, shows where our city or our community was, the Quebrada Caracol. It was about, like I said, 5-hour ride on the bus, and then it was just north of the city of San Felix.
Alright, so once we got back here in the fall, we created Lucia Associates, which is our engineering firm, or hypothetical engineering firm name, and we came up with a mission statement for our projects. We aim to present a practical and economical, sustainable and feasible design to our community, which they can then hopefully implement. We're also taking into design considerations the environmental factors, safety requirements, and then values that the community has as well. So just going off of what Jake was saying, it was a 2-hour hike into our community. We met with our Peace Corps volunteer, Lee Miller, who met us at the trailhead, and then we hiked in. She's the first Peace Corps volunteer in that community, so she's still working on creating and establishing a relationship with the community members there. As Jake also said, the community name is Quebrada Caracol, and at the trailhead, it started at a community named Calabazal, and then we hiked through Calabazal, up past the Santa Lucia River, which is where our project, or our river crossing project, is located, and then up the mountain another half an hour, 45 minutes into Quebrada Caracol. It's located in the comarca of the Nabe Bugle, which one of the other teams described. It's one of the native indigenous peoples. It's located right outside of the Cherokee province in Panama. As I was saying, no road access into the community, and there's no electricity, very little running water, and a few latrines. There's about 3 to 4 households per latrine, and even then, most of the community members don't even practice using the latrines that are there. Most of the houses in the community carry out quite a few people. They're usually multi-generational families that live with under one roof, and they're relatively far apart, spaced out around the comarca. Most people travel on foot or on horse. Many community members have horses and rent them out to other community members to bring in supplies or make quick trips into town. So just a little bit about what the people in the community do. Most of them are subsistence farmers, meaning they farm their own land and live off of it, so they don't need to make a great income to live off of. However, quite a few of the men in the community get contracts outside of the community and work anywhere between San Felix all the way to Panama City, and will leave the community for anywhere between a couple weeks up to 5 months at a time, leaving their family, like their kids and their wives, to tend to the homes and the crops and their animals as well. The school, there's a grade school in Calabazal, so from Quebrada Caracol, it's about a half an hour hike down the mountain. And then there's a middle school on the top of the mountain in Cerro Iglesia, which is another half an hour hike up the mountain. And then after that, the high school is out of the communities. It's in San Felix, so it's a 2-hour hike out of the community, and then a taxi ride into town, which provides a lot of financial difficulties for many families to send their kids all the way out there. So quite a few, or the majority of kids actually stop their schooling after middle school.
Here are some photos we took when we were in jungle. The left photo is a volleyball net which was set up by the teenagers in the community. Volleyball is a very important entertainment activity for the teenager of this jungle. And every time when they set up this net, we will go and play with them. And the right photo is a place where we set up our tent. Because the ground here is relatively flat, so we set our tent beside the church, the gambling-free church. Here I have a few tips for you. First thing is to remember your ask for ring fly when you borrow your tent from your friend. Second thing is prepare enough paper towel in case of that your tent get wet. And third thing is that because the moist content is very rich in the air of jungle, so every morning when you get up, you will find little wardrobe is everywhere in your tent. So it's better to have a sponge. The ear plant is also a good option because on the weekend, the community here will have a party and they will sing aloud for entire night. By the way, it's an alcohol-free party.
And this is the party that Yusheng was talking about. We were invited to participate with them. In the left picture, that is the 4 girls that were in our community from the iDesign. And we were invited to wear naguas, which is the traditional dress of the community members or the women there. This party went from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning, and it consisted of prayer, open mic, children games, and we even sang the community a song. And in the right, that's the church where it was hosted in.
The left photo is a water resource that most important to us. We got our daily water supply from this piped water, and before we drink water, we use chlorine to treat water, and so that is drinkable. And we also use this water to wash our clothes and take a shower. Some of us take shower every 2 days or 3 days, but I take shower every day. The right picture is a very simple restroom. Because it is jungle, you can find many different insects in this restroom, including bees, ants, flies, mosquitoes. The only thing you need to remember is that do not use your flashlight to light the toilet, because the bats will fly out and bite you.
One of the last evenings when we were there, the community invited us to cook dinner with them, so we learned their traditional way to cook the rice. And for basically every single meal for dinner, we had rice and beans. And on the right picture, that is the rice and bean stew that we helped prepare that night. And in the left picture, that is a typical home in our community. It is a thatch roof with bamboo or timber supports, so they are very simple homes. And usually there's multiple generations living in one home, typically about 3. And then in the right picture, that's our Peace Corps volunteer Lee's host family. They were the last family to be cooking dinner for us, and they were very excited to have us in the community, and they were pretty disappointed to see us leave, so they needed to take a picture with us our last night.
So it wasn't all just fun and games when we were down there. We actually did quite a bit of work. So to start off, the second day we were there, we met with the head of the bridge committee, which his name was Roberto. And we sat there and talked about requirements that the community wanted to see for the bridge, what the bridge was used for, so that way we could design the proper bridge for them. And any laws or zoning requirements that they have that we need to be aware of while designing this bridge. Through that, we found that the current bridge, which is pictured, is not reliable. This is the second bridge that they put in. The first one was tore down after a little girl fell in the river and drowned. And the main purpose for the bridge and crossing the river is for the children to get to school. Just to give some pictures of what we were working with, the picture on your left is just another picture of the bridge. As you can see, the deck is not completely flat, so if it gets a little wet, it's very slippery and not very user-friendly. The picture on the right is a cross-section of the river. The full river basin is roughly 60 feet. When we were down there, the water was occupying roughly 30 feet of that. The next photo on your left is another picture looking downstream of the river. It also showcases that it was very rocky, hard clay soils that we were working with. And the last photo on your right is a photo of a cleared field that someone came in and cleared before we got there. And that was very helpful when surveying.
Okay, so I'm going into some of our surveying and data collection that we did while we were down there. These are photos of Jake and I doing some surveying. Unfortunately, we were not able to bring any surveying equipment with us, so we had to make some makeshift tools. The one that I'm holding there on the left is a surveying rod that we made. It was a folding tape measure with a piece of cardboard duct taped to it with a target on it, which we then shot onto with a rangefinder, which is the device that Jake is holding in the picture on the right. From that, we were able to take elevations of both the right and left sides of the bank, and then we also were able to create a topographic map from those data points. We also collected river flow rates by measuring the width and depth of the river and then calculating how fast it took various objects to float down the river and average those time rates. From that, we were also able to create cross sections and then get a slope of the river as well. We did very basic preliminary soil observations and determined it to be hard clays. And then on our last day, we recorded GPS coordinates of the current existing bridge and then the location of the proposed bridge site, which is presented here in this photo. One of the design restrictions that we found out is that there's an environmental agency down there that prohibits them from cutting down any major trees along the banks of the rivers. So we chose to pick a location where minimal amount of trees would have to be cut down. This location that you're looking just straight down across the river is located about 30 feet north of the existing bridge location. And at this location, there's very small trees that would have to be moved in order for this to be implemented.
So as Sophia was talking about, when we got back to Panama City, we compiled all our data and created like topographic stuff. And when we got back to tech, we used AutoCAD and created a nice layout so you can see kind of the slope coming down towards the river. That big spot over there was that big open field that Joe was talking about. The existing bridge is about right where the text of Santa Lucia is. It's not on the picture, but we just overlaid the new or our proposed bridge so you could see where it would be going in. Some of our design requirements, it's going to be about 128-foot span on the bridge, 20-foot steel towers, and we're going to be using some high-strength suspension cables. And we're going to be using a wooden deck with wood from the communities that we found that we could be used. That's going to be high strength, and it'll be a lot easier for them to replace it. Talking to the community members, he told us where the about 100-year storm level, where he thought the highest the water would come up to. And we ran our own calculations using the watershed area, and we came up with a lot lower level. So using his estimation, it's a pretty conservative spot to go with. And then you can see the observed water level is a lot lower than it actually would be. It had to raise about 9 feet, as Ray said. So, and we had over 5 feet of clearance from the high water mark to the bottom of the deck, so nothing should be able to hit it on the way through.
This is just a very simple model of a suspension bridge that we created in SketchUp, just so that way you guys can get a basic idea of what our suspension bridge will look like in the end. And then to design our materials, we had to account for many loads. We used the Bridges to Prosperity design manual. We used the AASHTO code requirements. So we used our dead load, which we calculated by all our materials or the dead weight of our bridge. And then we used the AASHTO pedestrian mark load and equestrian mark load. We don't think there's going to be any horses going across our bridge, but just in case we're designing for it. We also have an earthquake load since we are near a plate boundary, as well as wind uplift. And with these forces, we calculated the tension in our cable reaction force at our towers, which then helped us determine what materials to use, such as our cable sizes.
And in the next few weeks, we'll finalize all parts of our design, including every details. And the construction cost will also be estimated, including labor cost, material cost, and equipment cost. We will also give a schedule for this project so that it's a little easier for people to follow. Then we will come up with our final report and our final presentation. In summary, our traveling in the jungle is a very different experience because we need to work like an actual engineer rather than only solving some math problems. Under this help, we learn a lot about the background of community, including their difficulties and their requirements. Based on their requirements, we conduct survey activities and to collect the data of topography. According to this data, the primary design of our new suspension bridge is almost done by us, and in the next few weeks, we'll complete our estimation.
Here's a list of our references. Thank you for your time, and we'll entertain any questions you may have.
What song did you sing? And can you repeat it?
We sang the Star Spangled Banner.
No, we're not going to repeat it.
So funny. The Star Spangled Banner.
Oh, gosh.
Hey, would you go back?
Did Mike?
Would you go back to Panama? Or was it once a night?
I'd go back.
I would definitely go back. I had enjoyed myself quite a bit. Loved being in the community, so.
Yeah, I'd go back.
How are you planning on getting all that steel to the site 2 hours in the road?
Yeah, so that's probably something I should have mentioned in the community background. They have a $50,000 grant to create a graded road leading up to the bridge, and then they have a $36,000 grant to create the bridge. These are both grants from their government. However, they said that the road would break ground this summer, and when we were there, they had no idea when it was actually going to start, so that's pretty hard to say when they're going to create that road. But in that case, they would be able to bring vehicles up to the site of the bridge.
What kind of long-term upkeep is going to be required for a project like this?
So we're using a lot of galvanized material, so that's going to help the corrosion. The towers are going to be painted there, and then we picked a wood that is native to the country, and it's very durable against rot and different things like that. And that'll also be in our report that we're going to send back to our Peace Corps volunteer, is a little section on maintenance and upkeep of the bridge.
Who would be in charge of the maintenance?
That would fall under the bridge committee. They have, it's pretty well defined. Roberto is very passionate about the bridge, and he's actually like donating his land to put this bridge on, so he's pretty passionate about it. Any other questions? Open.
Are all members of the bridge committee part of the community, or are those also like federal government sort of people?
Oh no, they're all community members. Yep.
How long ago did the girl going to school, how long ago did that happen?
Yeah, I think he said 2 years ago.
And is that, or did they get the funding from the government after that happened, or did they have to come in before?
I think they got this grant, or these two grants, about a year or 2 ago. So it might have been right after. One of the local politicians in the area came into their community and said, you know, I think she was trying to get votes and stuff. I'm not even sure if they can vote. But they basically told her that these are things that were important to them, and she told them that she would go through and get these grants, and she did. But they haven't seen any other communication with her or seen any actual project work. So they have they expressed kind of a lack of faith that some of those projects are actually gonna happen until we actually showed up and were surveying in their community and they're, oh, that could happen, it's a thing. So.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.